Thank you very much. Good morning from my side as well. My paper aspires to approach the historical recordings of the three-penny opera, the Die Dreigroschenoper, around the time of its premiere through a new light, emphasizing on the historical context and the special circumstances around it. And I will get through the special circumstances very soon. So around 25-26, the Beggar's Opera, the Baroque ballad opera arranged by Johann Christoph Pepusch with a libretto by John Gay, came to the attention of Elisabeth Hauptmann, Brecht's close collaborator for many years. The story is more or less known to everybody: the notorious London criminal Mac the Knife and sex addict whose crimes are covered up by Chief of Police Tiger Brown, his marriage, Queen Victoria coming at the end as a deus ex machina and saving him, granting him a baron title, a castle and a pension. And Hauptmann and Brecht at the time perceived this piece and the universal themes it had as a piece capable of expressing the core of human condition, serving as a social critique and functioning as a parable of the corrupted capitalist society in Berlin at the time. No matter how the three-penny opera is nowadays one of the most famous theater works, and it offers tons of entertainment, its primary goal was actually not to entertain the audience. For Brecht, the three-penny opera was an attempt, as he called it, a Versuch, for a new type of political theater called epic theater. Epic theater's primary goal was to enable spectators to maintain a critical and alert attitude toward the play, encouraging judgment and debate about what they were witnessing. It should no longer emphasize evoking emotions and empathy, as Brecht contended that these paralyzed spectators and they induced a passive stance towards the play. So he aimed for a shift of emphasis, a Gewichtsverschiebung as he called it, between reason and emotion, nurturing critical response and reducing or at least controlling empathy and entertainment. Notably, his collaborative works with Weil, Die Dreigroschenoper and Mahagoni were described as formal experiments of this new theater and contained innovations tied with very strict theories in all of the theatrical elements, including singing. At the time of the play, it had a very strong identity crisis, and even the collaborators had some different opinions of what the play is. The producer of the piece called it a humorous literary operetta. Weil called it a farce with music. The misgendering lingers also in the post-war years, with the 1954 Broadway revival carrying the typical Broadway musical theater aesthetics, while a UK release of the same year mentions it as an operetta. If you can see here, it says operetta. And this is almost 30 years after the premiere. So it would not be an exaggeration to say that Brecht absolutely despised operatic singing. Lotte Lenya recalls in an interview of hers, "Oh my God, he loathed traditional singers, he loathed opera, very fanatic of that." As much as Brecht hated bel canto, he was fascinated by ballad singing, which according to Kim Kowalke, it traces back to the barrel organ singers, the Belkensänger, that he witnessed in his hometown Augsburg before moving to Berlin. Another strong influence of Brecht was cabaret, and especially German playwright and cabaret performer Frank Wedekind. Brecht himself performed in cabarets of the mid-20s in Berlin, and he composed his own ballads, describing them as cold, plastic, unflinching, and like tough nutcells when they get caught in the dentures, knock out a few of the listeners' teeth. Weil encountered Brecht during a transitional phase in his artistic evolution. He had already begun writing, composing music that contained popular elements. And the key agreement they had was the idiocy of operatic form, as they called it, and they wanted to explore new styles and new structures. In the songs of the Three-Penny Opera, Weill employed simpler and more concise melodic and rhythmic structures, and he drew influences from American jazz, popular cabaret music, etc. And a nice description I find from American composer Mark Blitzstein, who described the songs as an outlandish mixture of German beer-drinking ditty and American ballad. The performance of a song in epic theater preoccupied Brecht until the end of his career. His instructions of performing a song derive almost exclusively from a short text, an essay, the notes to the Three-Penny Opera, a type of a performance guide that he wrote shortly after the play's premiere. Despite Brecht's instructional text being brief, it's almost, I would say, 400 words. It contains a significant number of hints that, when combined with other sources, they can offer a crucial glimpse into singing practice for a Brechtian song in epic theater. So I will take some notable hints from this text, and I will try to analyze it a bit. So Brecht mentions, nothing is more detestable than when an actor gives the impression of not having noticed that he has left the ground of plain speech and is already singing. Like in epic theater, in operettas, the structure of sung parts following spoken dialogues was very common. In an operetta, singers were expected to convey the impression that this shift from speaking to singing had gone unnoticed, supporting the aesthetics of what Brecht called the theater of illusion. Since one of Brecht's main epic goals was to destroy illusion, he found detestable when an actor gave the impression of not having noticed that they were speaking and then they started singing magically. Number two, when he sings, the actor accomplishes a change of function and show a man who is singing. So singers and actors need to change their function, as Brecht says. This way he prompts them to transform into something akin to a singing persona, which can be found in the cabaret genre. Brecht adds that they should not only sing but show someone who is singing, implementing a deeper level of emotional detachment from the song. Therefore, the songs can be seen as short, independent, exiled narrations during the play, a narration within a narration. Number three, in no circumstances will singing take over where words fail for excess of emotion. Within the opera of the time, singing was merely associated with a heightened emotion compared to speech. Within the logic of songs begin when emotion becomes too strong, so the actors surpass the capacity of speech and necessitate the expression through singing. Aware of these aesthetics, Brecht sought to prevent any potential connections of song in epic theater with this concept, and he acknowledged the emotional impact music can have and urged actors not to project the emotional content of the song, nor their own emotions in it. Singing was simply a tool to heighten the text itself, the narrative of the text. Speak against the music, like the title of my paper. Brecht suggests that the main singing technique is not bel canto, but rather carries a speech quality, urging the actors not to follow the melody blindly, but to speak against the music, gegen die Musik sprechen. And I found this choice of words intriguing as Brecht contextualizes the struggle between two contrasting enunciations, singing, associated with emotion, and speaking, associated with reason. He does not, however, wish for a fusion of these two, like Sprechgesang, but he wanted singing to maintain the character of plain, unemotional speech. Only then could singing remain incorruptible by emotion. Number five, clearing showing delight to the melody, in the melody. Although Brecht prioritized speaking against the music, he did not completely block out lyrical singing. However, when employed, lyrical singing should have a self-aware quality. It should be made tangible. Therefore, in parts where lyrical singing were employed, Brecht mentions that it should be treated as an event and as something special. with the singers self-consciously showing their delight in the melody. It would not be an exaggeration to describe the rehearsal period prior to the premiere of the Dreigroschenoper as an absolute chaos. While starting with the harmonizing of the song only a few weeks before the premiere, main actors cancelling some days before, director Engel wanted to get rid of all the music as he believed that the lighting accompanying the songs was unsuccessful, quote, while threatening to leave, etc., etc. Furthermore, for the vast majority of the cast, this new form of musical drama was completely new and was also difficult to understand. Harald Paulsen, whose recording we will hear in a bit, he played the protagonist Mac the Knife, and he thought that the play was an operetta. He would struggle to depart from the romantic performance style to fit the Brecht's idea of speaking against the music. Paulsen stated, "This is the first time in my life that I don't know what I'm doing. They're all maniacs. I have no idea what the whole thing is about. All I know is that it's a disaster." Despite all of the bad omens, the play had an incredibly successful premiere, mostly due to its songs. Shortly after, recordings started to occur. The originality of these recordings is a complex matter. It is important to point out that they did not intend to represent an actual song in epic theater, but they were released as Unterhaltungsmusik, as light and popular music, focusing on the hit aspect and aiming for sales, for commercial success. Furthermore, these recordings mostly did not follow Weil's original instrumentation, and they were remarkably shortened to fill the technical requirements of shellac discs at the time. From Weil's later exchange with Universal Editions, we can glimpse the very hasty conditions of the recordings. As he said, newspapers are receiving inquiries from the public about why there are no scores and gramophone records of the Dreigroschenoper. It is such a pity if your energetic and rapid work on these pieces is to remain ineffective in this way. Furthermore, it is not documented that Brecht had an active participation in the recording process. Therefore, the historical recordings should be considered not representative just due to their age, but they should be critically analyzed within the historical context of the time in order to discover traces of how the songs actually sounded during an actual stage performance or how they intended to be performed. In the recordings, there is a great variation and lack of homogeneity. Reasons were all of the above, and also the cast turned out to be a blend of actors from different fields, of operetta, of drama, of film, of cabaret. This blend pleased the artistic theme, as it would add to the creation of a new theatrical form as the creators wanted. So, there is in total 5 recording sessions between 28 and 1930. And I will play you some characteristic examples to show the variation and some analysis methodology of these. This is the cast. Most of them are associated with the premiere of the piece. We have an operetta singer, cabaret comedian, Lotte Lenya, of course, Erich Ponto, cabaret comedian, an actor. So there are many different backgrounds from the cast of the premiere. So, the first example is from Harald Paulsen, who was an operetta singer. And I have to do this manually.
Ihr Herren, die ihr uns lehrt, wie man brav leben und Sünd und Missetat vermeiden kann. Zuerst müsst ihr uns was zu fressen geben, dann könnt ihr reden, damit fängt es an. Ihr, die ihr euren Wand und unsere brav Hochzeitslied. Das eine bis das ein für allemal.
So we can hear that there are some elements that Brecht described. There is a staccato, enunciated rendition. We can hear Paulsen literally speaking against the score, turning viols legato into a staccato, and also this kind of showing a clear delight to the melody, changing the function and singing in a very obvious lyrical manner. In order to show the difference of rendition of the same person around the same era, I will play you an operetta of the time from the same actor.
Wenn du wüsstest, wie ich dich verehre, seit ich gesehen. Wenn du wüsstest, wie ich auf dich schwöre, weil wir uns verstehen.
So I think we can listen to a very different type of singing. And Paulsen, although described the piece as an absolute chaos, he was able to do what Brecht wanted in the end. The Moritat, the very famous song. We will listen to two cabaret actors, how they performed it, around the same time, one from 28 and the other from 29, and the different renditions. So Paulsen, like we heard before, has the same type of staccato enunciated singing, a very sachlich, very objective.
Und der Haifisch, der hat Zähne und die trägt er im Gesicht. Und Mekis, der hat ein Messer, doch das Messer sieht man nicht.
Next year, sung by Kurt Geron, who was a cabaret actor.
Und der Haifisch, der hat Zähne und die trägt er im Gesicht.
So we can hear a totally different rendition, the very typical nasal, playful, slurred, and imprecise cabaret singing style of the time. And Erich Ponto was also a cabaret actor, and he sang another song in a similar style to Kurt Geron.
Der Mensch lebt durch den Kopf, sein Kopf reicht ihm nicht aus. Versuch es nur, von deinem Kopf lebt höchstens eine Laus.
Another comparison is between Carola Nea and Lotte Lenya. Let's listen to Nea's rendition.
Einst glaubte ich, als ich noch unschuldig war, und das war ich ein Grab so wie du. Vielleicht kommt aus mir einmal einer, und dann muss ich wissen, was ich tue.
So Nea interprets this speaking against the music as a rhythmical declamation, which is maybe different with what Brecht wanted, because Lotte Lenya, who turned out to be a Brechtian, a very representative Brechtian actress and singer, sings it like that.
Jedoch eines Tags, und der Tag, der war blau, da kam einer, der mich nicht bat. Und hängte seinen Hut an den Nagel in meiner Kammer, und ich wusste nicht mehr, was ich tat.
So Lenya, the vast majority of the song is singing, but in an enunciated and unemotional manner. She adds a speaking quality to some of the underlined words of the text as well, with a characteristic portamento, which gives a speaking-like quality. And the last recording is also from 1929, is from a now opera singer, and let's hope that Brecht didn't get this shellac record on his hands, because she sings it like that.
Einst glaubte ich, als ich noch unschuldig war, und das war jetzt Grab so wie du. Vielleicht kommt auch zu mir einmal einer, und dann muss ich wissen, was ich tue.
So the recordings of the Dreigroschenoper are maybe a unique example in early recording history where so many vastly different renditions of the same songs were produced in such a short amount of time. If put under a certain analytical perspective, I feel they can be used as a good documentation of Brecht's early attempts in epic theater, the so-called his early period, while revealing the majority of the singing styles in stage music of the late 1920s and early 1930s. Thank you very much.